Today is March the 15th. Did God ever use object lessons? Let's find out together as we study the middle chapters of the book of Exodus. Today I'd like you to read Exodus chapters 24 to 28. In Exodus 24, what we find is a very unusual thing. Moses receives the book of the law. He brings it down to the elders of Israel. And the Lord says, invite 70 elders up on the mountain with you. Now the mountain had been separated. No other Israelite other than Moses and Joshua could go up the mountain. So Moses is told, now you can bring 70 elders up the mountain. He does, and the interesting thing is that in verses 9 to 11, then Moses, Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel climbed up on the mountain. There they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet there seemed to be a surface of brilliant blue lapis lazuli, as clear as the sky itself. And though these nobles of Israel gazed upon God, he did not destroy them. In fact, they ate a covenant meal, eating and drinking in his presence. A meal was one of the ways that two parties would celebrate the initiation of a new covenant. So God is very careful to do what they would expect. He has a meal with them, signing and firming up this covenant with the Lord. Now, we move on in chapter 25, the first two verses. The Lord said to Moses, tell the people of Israel to bring me their sacred offerings. A list of acceptable offerings is made, and the people begin to bring. It's interesting to note that in chapter 36, verses 6 and 7, Moses gave the command, and this message was sent throughout the camp. Men and women, don't prepare any more gifts for the sanctuary. We have enough. So in chapter 25, Moses opens up the giving of offerings. In chapter 36, he says, we have enough to build the temple. The rest of chapters 25 through 28 and beyond detail the construction plan for the tabernacle. The Ark of the Covenant is first a table, a lampstand, the tabernacle itself, an altar, a courtyard, the lamps, and then right down to the clothing for the priests, including their underwear. Very detailed plans are given. It's a little bit tedious to read through that unless you're an architect building a model of the tabernacle. But I wanted to point out to you 4 verses. Chapter 25, verse 40. God says, be sure that you make everything according to the pattern I have shown you here on the mountain. Chapter 26, verse 30. Set up the tabernacle according to the pattern you were shown on the mountain. Chapter 27, verse 21 ends with the statement, this is a permanent law for the people of Israel. It must be observed from generation to generation. And the law is the instructions on how to build. And then finally, chapter 28 ends with the statement, this is a permanent law for Aaron and all his descendants after him. The permanent law again is how to make Aaron's clothes, how to make even his underwear. The point is this: the Lord tells Moses, build it like this. We're going to see in a few chapters that Moses built it like this. He followed God's instruction exactly. Why go to that great detail to do that? Simply because God wanted the Israelites to learn something even from the tabernacle, to learn about God's holiness, to learn to approach him with reverence, places where he would hear their prayers, places where he would appear to them. God indeed did use object lessons. The tabernacle and later the temple is one of God's primary object lessons, where we learn of God's beauty and of his power. Like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you use to listen to it. Tomorrow, we'll ask the question, is saved by grace just a New Testament concept?